Yeah, so we're talking about the work you did, Kate, between the sessions to sort of analyse what we did in the example mapping session last time. And it's interesting looking at these interpretations of what we talked about sort of back into more structured format for expressing the user story and the acceptance criteria, kind of like what you'd expect to see in a Jira ticket or something. And this is usually what what you would often see a team bring into an example mapping session, right? That the product owner or business analyst has kind of sat and thought about the work to be done to the extent that they've expressed it, like these yellow cards here, where they've written down the user story in some format and they've written down their version of the acceptance criteria. And then it's up to the group to sort of turn that into something through the example mapping to see whether they fully understand it, like have they got more questions that they can't answer, but also to interpret it into examples that they could turn into tests and rules that they can put into if statements in the code. And one of the things, one of the kind of challenges I've had over the years with acceptance criteria as a thing, like I learned about acceptance criteria from Mike Cohn when I did my Scrum Master training back in like 2004 or something. And I've always found acceptance criteria to be quite a kind of woolly definition. Like sometimes they're rules, like they're really hard constraints about the behavior of the system when the story's been implemented, and sometimes they're just kind of like fuzzy desires, like they're really kind of, they can be quite abstract. And kind of that's one of the things I think is important to do with the example mapping process, is to take each of those acceptance criteria and kind of run it through the mill of, well, what actually does this look like in practice? What would be a real scenario where we experience this acceptance criteria being satisfied or not being satisfied? And therefore, what does that tell us about the rules that we must implement in the solution in order to build something that is acceptable according to these criteria? And so kind of turning the acceptance criteria into these things that are either rules or examples. Because the other thing I see sometimes is people will express their acceptance criteria as a bunch of given, when, then examples. You'll see this. People write them in Jira tickets. They just write, the business analyst has sat on their own writing given, when, then, given, when, then, given, when, then, as their way of writing acceptance criteria. And actually,
exactly what I was going to do.
Most
this is,
people
to me,
struggle with the so that and the acceptance criteria.
Yeah,
it's like,
but to me,
I rarely see good user stories that has the when and the I want part is easy, but getting to the value part is often not so easy. People don't get that, and that to me is really the key of, you can't have a good user story without a strong why. And the acceptance criteria to me is the same. If it's too, I guess that depends on the seniority of the team, because if it is juniors, then you need to be more specific. But if it is seniors, you don't want to dictate what they should be doing. You want to tell them that this is the outcome we want, and you have the freedom to design the system the way you want to. So I guess it depends on...
Yes, and even if they're senior, they may miss things, right? So the problem with acceptance criteria as traditionally used in my experience is that they're sort of detailed enough to look fine, but they're not detailed enough to actually explore the problem space and look for all of the edge cases. So they can be really dangerous, because everyone can read them and kind of go, yeah, that looks fine, I agree. Let's move on. And then actually you haven't given yourselves a chance to discover all of the messy edge cases that are hiding in there around them. So and even if people, well, no, not just even if people, instead of writing bullet points of nice sounding acceptance criteria, they write given, when, then statements. It's so Blaise, I would really, really encourage you to not write them and push them to the team, because what is much better, more effective, if you're thinking about this as an opportunity for learning about what don't we know yet about this work, it's much, much better if you can have the given when then scenarios, which we're about to write now, be feedback from the people with the most to learn about the problem, to see whether they really understand what they're about to build. Because writing the scenarios is kind of like a simulation, a cheap simulation of writing the software itself, because you're describing how the software is going to behave.
Yes.
And if you don't know how to do that, you probably won't be able to write the software either.
Correct.
So rather than having a business analyst kind of going, here, I've written a specification for you, it's in Gherkin, you're going to be able to just copy and paste it into your cucumber test and then go away and make me some code. That's like working in a sausage factory, but actually we're not making sausages, we're creating something brand new that's never been invented before. So it needs to be more collaborative than that, and it works much better if you can pass the information along the production line of the sausages in conversation, but then use a feedback loop at each stage to check for understanding before you move on to the next kind of level of commitment, right? Because we're not very committed when we're just passing index cards around on the table
commitment.
And writing bullet points. It's very cheap. And even when we're writing scenarios in Gherkin, it's still quite cheap. But once we start writing if statements and having automated tests for them and all of that, it's very expensive. So it's a good idea to try and do, just as much rigor as we can before we get down to that level.
Yes, I see the given when then as the next phase. So yeah, I always look at the high level picture. So yeah, I guess you can use example mapping for a few purposes. The first is to define the user stories, which is what I used it for a year. And this was to help my friend to be better able to let his team create user stories. And then you can also use it for planning, which is the given when then and the actual details, and validating against the examples, which I thought was really useful. And I didn't think of that, because what makes Scrum, or not Scrum necessarily, Agile meaningful is that the feedback loops are shorter. And if you can already test your acceptance criteria against given examples, then you are one step ahead.
So yeah, to be clear, right, the way we did it last week, where we had a fuzzy idea of what the user story was, is pretty unrealistic for a real world team, right? Most real world teams, there is a backlog of stories. They've been reasonably well thought out, and the way example mapping is designed to be used is as a kind of a filter that sits just in front of the development team in the process to make sure that stories don't get through that are too chunky or have got nasty bits of grit in them. So we use it to grind them up into sort of the fine dust that we know is going to flow through the team, because actually every single one of these little examples is something that you can write a test for, you can add a little bit of code to make it work, you can push that right the way through the process, and then you can move on to the next one. So you're using it as a way to test these acceptance criteria. Well, planning, preparation, comprehension tool, really, because what it's doing is it's making sure that we're testing the team's understanding of the story before everyone's on the same page before we go off and write the code. Because the crucial thing about this is a tester can really add an awful lot to this meeting by saying, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? So you can really get into the details of how it would be tested before you've even written a line of code. And therefore the devs are going to be able to add a lot more automated tests as they're building it, which means that the tester's then free when the thing's finished to work at a higher level of exploratory testing, instead of just chugging through a list of obvious things that need checking on it, because this is the first time they've had to think about it, because they're doing testing at the end. So you can do a lot more testing of the idea here when you're working with like a real example. So would you two like to start writing the scenarios with me this week? Should we do that?
Yes.
And if I
How do you feel, Blaise? Yes.
Yes.
So would it be okay if I do the writing and you two tell me what to write? Does that work for you? or would you either of you two like to
Shouldn't
type?
Blaise be doing the typing and me the scribing?
Sure.
Well, we could
Or
all
I mean,
we could all jump on a VS
it's
Code live share as well,
Yeah,
and
that sounds fine.
do it like that. What I thought we could do is use Probot to build this thing, and it does kind of generate a repo. So, and I didn't do that. I'm sharing my screen. Can you see?
yes,
Yes.
I didn't do that
see a
beforehand.
console.
Yeah.
Good.
Does either of you two want to try and do it, or shall I do that bit? Because I have the rights to create a repo in Cucumber, so it might be a bit simpler.
Oh,
if
I
I do
don't
this
have rights. That's true. Okay.
Bit.
I don't want to.
Okay.
Okay. I have.
Hang on,
Yeah,
sorry.
I don't think I have Cucumber
I've got
rights.
another message in Slack. I'm just going to remind me about this in an hour. And then, so in this channel here, where did I write it? These instructions. So I'm going to follow these instructions. So I'm going to go into my Cucumber org, and I'm going to npx create probot app, and it's going to be called, what are we going to call it?
Oh, the stale.
Style.
Yeah, retire. Yeah, retire.
Or should we just call it stale
contributors?
contributor bot?
Or
Sure.
Or stale contributor bot? Is it a stale contributor or an inactive contributor?
Oh, inactive. Yes.
on your original story, you said stale, but I think
Yeah.
inactive is probably a nicer word.
Yes.
People going stale sounds weird, doesn't it? It doesn't really work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Issues can go stale, which is where the name comes from, because there is already a thing called stalebot, which closes issues that haven't been touched for a certain period of time. So this is an inactive contributor bot. So I'm going to press the button. You ready? App name, inactive contributor bot. Description of app. Retire inactive contributors from one team to another. Author's full name. Well, I'm Matt Wynn.
Yep.
You are Kate Dames, and you. Is
Oh,
that
I'm
how I
not
say
really.
it?
Yes, and Blaise.
Sure, why not?
I'll just put
He's
my
more
email
important
address
than
in
you.
there.
Here's, yeah.
And that's my GitHub username. I guess that's going to be the repository name. Okay, so we can have like a default version of the code. I'm going to go for a TypeScript one.
You said something about TypeScript. You need to run create probot app, my first app. You said something about TypeScript. Be careful. I remember reading that.
Be careful.
I can't remember. Maybe it was with something else.
So it's just I had a look at this last night, and it's just it gives you sort of like an example implementation. So there's a little bit of skeleton code in there,
Right.
and we're generally using TypeScript rather than just plain JavaScript at Cucumber. So I think that'd be the right one to use.
Yeah.
So what did we call it? Inactive contributor bot. So we've got a repo now. So if I do. So we do push create. Not from scratch. Push existing local repository to GitHub.
Oh, GH is the new GitHub client?
Yeah, it's super good. Yeah, it's excellent.
Oh God! Now everyone will be using it. Kids these days, they have no idea.
There we go. Okay, so we've got a repo. So if I do code in here, and then I do that, and then I will paste the link. I will do it in a DM.
Oh.
So we're not leaking. And then you two should be able to join me. So what we need to see is the code, but we also need to see the example map, don't we? Where's the Miro board with the example map?
Accept. Matt, you need to press accept.
Oh, sorry, Kate. It's gone. Can you try again? I saw the window, and then when I moved it, there we go. So Blaise joined. How come Blaise gets the right to wander right in and Kate has to get accepted?
Because he already joined previously, I guess.
Maybe. I had logged in with my GitHub ID before.
Yeah, I haven't.
Can you try again, Kate? Sorry.
Let me sign in.
Here we go.
No.
Sweet.
Oh, that's different.
Oh, I see. It shows you the diff.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just because it's then installed that package lock file. Yeah, so Blaise is in.
Yeah, I don't know what mine is doing because I tried to sign in with my GitHub and now it's saying signing in.
Oh, you may have to authorize. Did you do the authorized GitHub?
Firefox is preventing the pop-up. I love it.
There's a tiny little icon in your address bar of the browser.
Got it. I love it though because I don't like pop-ups.
Nice.
This is the hard part. What is my password? Nope. That's why I do the anonymous one. Or I'll have to find my notebook where it's all written down.
You do not use a password manager, Kate?
I don't because I have had my PC crash in the past. So to me, the most convenient and the most secure is just actually writing it down and carrying it with me. And
well, 1Password is. I'm not affiliated with 1Password, but 1Password has changed my life.
So I have to say, I'm not affiliated with 1Password, and I am a huge curmudgeon when it comes to applications that attempt to be multi-platform, but they have done a magnificent job.
Yeah,
magnificent job of supporting multiple platforms.
And like, if my 72-year-old mum uses 1Password, and
yeah, no, 1Password is really yeah. A couple of them were interviewed recently on the Changelog, which is a podcast that I follow for DevOps people.
Yeah.
And they tell the story of, how they went about approaching the multi-platform.
I'm trying to just get my stream manager thing up in Twitch.
I don't know if it's doing anything.
We haven't seen you come back in yet.
No,
Kate. No,
I don't either.
Do you want to share your screen and we'll help you?
You guys can continue without me in any case because...
Not really. Would you like to share your screen for a moment and we'll make sure that there aren't any panels that are obscure?
I'm just going to continue as anonymous quickly. And then it should pop up any moment now. And
there
then,
you
go.
Here
we go. So I'm going to accept you, read, write. There we go. All right. So you two can now come in here and edit files, yeah?
Yeah, yes.
So, yeah, and we're going to try and I'm going to try and keep my fingers off the keys. Blaise. We said, what should we do?
Me
Like
too.
rotating, like a proper mob.
Yeah,
Should we
absolutely.
rotate? We could use mob
I'll
timer.
drive. I think Kate has a timer. Do you want? Would that be okay, Kate?
Time. We can use mob time. Look.
Mob time. Oh, wow.
So we can add. Have you seen this before?
No, this is brilliant.
Super good.
I
So
think
we
we are
can
building an
add
epic Twitch session.
people. So here's Kate, and then Blaise, and finally Matt. And then we can go.
You are scaring me. I should be the scribe, remember?
Well, no, this is just
Everyone
one
can
time. You
type.
can do
It's
this
all
next time.
right.
This is great.
We can do this. So here we have Blaise is driving and Kate is navigating. That's what the computer has told us we have to do for 5 minutes. Does that seem all right?
Yeah, of course.
Kate, I mean, you said you were scared. Is it okay? I don't want to
Yes.
push you. Yeah, you sure?
But I like to do things that scare me, so it's fine.
Okay, good. So we're going to do 5-minute rotations. Kate's going to navigate. I'm going to try and shut up. And Blaise is going to drive. You ready? Steady, go.
Yes.
So I guess the first place to start is looking at the instructions. And it is, we've generated a new app, correct? Do we want to configure the GitHub app?
So I suggest what we try and start doing though
Or
is writing some features. Like we want to try and turn the overall goal is to turn this example map into some feature files. So although we have this probot code in here, I think we should kind of ignore it for now.
Ah, fair enough.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Blaise, that's what you've got to do.
Okay.
You've got to write stuff.
I'll write stuff.
And we don't have a given when then format yet. So
Okay.
given when a user is inactive for more than 12 months.
So we've got these 3 rules here. Yeah. Where would we where would we store the feature file in this repository? Does anybody know where they go?
Wouldn't there be a feature folder?
It's usually called features, and it's usually in the root for a JavaScript project. Yeah.
Okay.
So like we've got source and test there. We would have a folder next to them. Can you two create folders? Have you got
Yeah,
permissions
I
to
can do that. I'll do that. Okay. And so create a features folder.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll probably put it next to source rather than inside source. If you can,
Okay.
can you drag it up to the root?
Yep.
There we go. And then inside there, you'd put a file with a .feature
Feature file.
extension.
Okay.
So what is the feature that we're adding here?
Inactive contributors-bot features. Yes? No?
So should we?
Well, the
just-
whole project is the inactive contributor bot. So what features does what capabilities does the inactive contributor
So the
bot
one
have,
is
and what's the capability
find
we're adding right now?
scan for inactive contributors. Would that be good?
Oh,
Are we just scanning, or are we going to do something once we've finished the scan? What is the scope of the work we're describing here?
I would say a notification seems to be one.
A notification? I would say that you first need to get the data, and then the next step would be to remove it.
Oh,
And
so
then the next step
right.
would be to add it. And then the next step would be to do the communication around it. So I would have done that in 4 once, but I don't know what the granularity should be at this stage. I've never done this.
Yeah. So we want to think
So
about
you must
at
jump
quite a high
in
level. We want to think at quite a high level. What is the capability that we're going to add to this, that we want to have in this bot? And
we wanted to find the users.
well, it's no use to me if all it does is find users. What do I want it to actually do? What's the overall objective here?
I see.
Move inactive users.
Yes, we want to-
From one team to another.
And notify them.
Well, yes, but we could add notification as a separate feature.
Correct. Yes.
Yes, I would think that should be separate, the
slice
communication,
that
because
out.
you reuse it in other places, I guess.
So move inactive contributor would be or contributors would be a good place to start, I think. Yeah.
Dot feature. Would that be a good name because it's got a
Yeah.
verb and a noun?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it would be a good name. It's funny we can't see Blaise doing the rename, but I can hear him typing.
I can also hear it.
Like that? Move inactive users?
That is perfect.
Thank you. It feels great to hear that.
Such a complex task. And then you need to hand over to the next person because there's only 3 seconds left.
2 seconds. I'm hoping it's going to make a noise. Did you hear the noise? Or did it just come out of my speakers?
It's a terrible noise.
I don't know if you can change the noise. So right now we have... Oh, me driving. Okay. So it's going to be your turn next, Kate. So Blaise, you're navigating. What do I have to do, Blaise?
So,
you've got to press the button to say start turn, Matt.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Well, if we're going to, essentially we're going to transcribe some of the material from the Miro board into the feature description. So I guess we want to start with a scenario background.
Or the feature? Doesn't it start with
the feature? The feature, that's right. Start with the feature, and the feature is
or should I shut up now?
Well, no.
Depends on your mobbing protocol, doesn't it? I mean, some people are pretty strict about that. I think you and Blaise can figure it out.
Well, I think basically you and I can discuss things, and then I would give instructions to the driver.
Okay.
In terms of where to turn. So, I guess the feature is to retire. That's right. The feature is to change the status of a user when they have exceeded the activity threshold. Does that sound right? Okay.
That's quite a long
I'm not sure, to be
description.
honest, because I'm thinking here maybe it would make sense to break it into the different features, like search for or identify inactive users and then remove them and then add them. Or I've never used this, so I'm not sure.
Right. So there are.
So the overall structure, I'll just sketch it out for you. I'll put my cucumber on for a
Given
minute.
when then
Would be like this.
Right.
And
so I usually start at the bottom.
Oh.
That makes more sense
with
to
the
me.
Outcome.
Like the lowest level. So given a user is inactive for more than 12 months, I think is fine, because I don't think it's 1 day isn't going to really make a difference.
Sure. Okay.
When they, that's interesting.
User is inactive for more than 12
what
months.
will happen?
Well, excuse me. If a user is inactive for 12 months and they are in a particular team, then we move them to, we change the team membership.
Yes. When they are in what is the group called in the GitHub? Was it active contributors or?
I guess, should we
committers.
just call it?
Committers. When?
So I can write stuff up here, right? Anything that goes in here before the word scenario is just notes. So I can just write in here. So we have 2 teams.
2 teams.
One with committers and alumni. The goal is to move inactive contributors from the committers.
So maybe it shouldn't be given a user is inactive for more than 2 months, but given a user has previously contributed or is part of the committers team.
Oh, very good. Yes. That's the relevant context, yeah.
When they have become more or when they have become inactive for more or when they haven't contributed, can you do negatives?
You can do whatever you like.
Yeah,
Here, really.
Because negatives aren't really good, actually.
How about when
Wonder if I can...
when their last contribution, when the date of their last contribution was more than 12 months?
So cucumber hat on for a minute, cucumber coach.
Okay. Yeah.
Try being more concrete for now.
Okay.
Basically the example we're translating is this one.
Ah.
Right now, this may not be a good specific date to use for this
current date minus 365.
Right. But it's helpful to be a little bit more concrete. Right now we're being a little bit abstract, and it would be helpful to be maybe a bit more concrete.
Okay, when their contribute date. When the date of their last contribution
be something more specific as well, like commit, their last commit, or pull request,
when the date of their last commit, the create date. How's that if you want to be more specific? Is it create? Yeah, the create date, because that would be the actual contribution. We don't really care when it was merged or anything like that.
Yeah.
They have different date fields.
Okay, we're up. So now I'm navigating, and Kate, you're driving. Can you get your fingers in this file?
I don't know. Let me just first find it. I've got so many pages open. Here we go. So can you see me?
Yeah, we can.
Yes,
great.
I can type.
Okay, so I'll start turn. You ready?
Go.
So this thing about the create date of their last commit, I would like to make that part of the givens rather than the when, because I think the when is the event in the scenario is something else. So this is part of the context. So you could change that when at the beginning of the line just to be an and.
Wait, your cursor is in the way.
So then it reads... Given a user as part of the committers team and the create date. So you can make a new line. So and is another keyword that you can use in a scenario, just like given, when, and then. So we can kind of append more. Yeah, there you go. And the create date of their last commit was, let's say, 366 days ago.
Can I do that?
I can't see what you've done actually because it's gone off the side of my screen. Or more. Well, no, we have to be concrete. We can't tell.
Okay, because it will run every single day. It's just the first time that it's going to be. Okay, makes sense. Sorry. I'll keep quiet.
No, it's okay. For me. It's good to ask the question, but you'll see in a minute when we try and automate it, we need to be specific. So I would just say when the bot runs on the repo or something like that. Then okay, so let's change given a user and let's put a name in for the user. So let's say let's talk about G Hanatiuk because why not? So we should still say a user.
Oh, you say a user.
So given a user, and then let's have his real handle. I can't remember how you spell it. Sorry. Oh, you know what? It doesn't matter, right? Let's just say Greg. Let's just say given a user, Greg is part of the committers team. Yeah. And then when the bot runs on the repo, and in the then step, we can say then Greg should be in the alumni team. And so on a new line.
I can't. And
Greg should not be in the committers team.
Okay.
All right. So let's fix the indentation, Kate, on 12 and 14. Can you do that?
Shift tab.
I don't know. It depends on what you're editing. Can you move them just move them left so they're all just aligned up?
No, the other way.
That's going worse than I wanted it to go. So go move them back to line up with the given.
One
almost.
more. Back more.
Given. This is given, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
but just if you can just get the and the when to line up with the
They're all
given,
at the same
because it's
level.
just
Yeah.
making me feel a bit queasy.
The
way
and
they're
and the
all,
when align up with it.
yeah,
With
just have
given.
them all line up together.
It's
They are on my
counterintuitive.
screen.
They
You
are lined
can
up on your
look at.
screen.
Oh, your
Whoa.
screen looks different.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I wonder what's happening there. That's fascinating.
Do you have some prettier or something
Tab
that's
size too. That looks good.
because I don't. Oh, but we on the same session theoretically.
Could you share your screen, Kate? Can we have a look?
I can share screen. Gosh, I don't know which one to choose. This one.
Yeah,
probably.
they're all lined up. There are. I
Can
see
you
them.
see my
So we
screen?
can see the Slack window right now, not the VS Code window.
Then I will have to stop share and try again.
Yeah, I see the in my VS Code. They are properly lined up.
Really? So is it just me?
You're not updating. Yeah.
Do you know what? Because we've got a brand new Cucumber extension that is
Can you see now?
brand new. I think it might be. Yeah, right. Hang on a sec. So let me fix my VS Code. Hold on a minute.
Okay.
Because there's a. Yeah.
Can I
Let's
close
see
it?
if I close that file and reopen it, what happens? Jeez, oh, that's really made a mess. Okay, we've run out of time. So that was my navigation session. Well, it's still weird. How does it look on your machines now?
Perfect. It's fine.
Okay, good. Right, I'm going to share my screen again. Where's my Zoom window gone?
Do I have to re-log in? Just
no, you two are fine. It was me. It was I had something.
No, it threw me out.
Oh, what threw you out? The VS Code?
Yes.
Oh, because it's reloaded.
Continue as anonymous. Maybe is it because I'm anonymous?
No, it was all because
joining collaboration request failed due to status code 404.
I think I have to. I may have to invite you all again. I'm sorry. So my VS Code rebooted itself because we've got a brand new VS Code extension that Aslak and Aurelian have been working on, and I was testing it this morning, and it's buggy, and that was why it was making all the alignment look weird on my machine. And
so it's a good thing that we're testing it out.
Yeah, kind of, except it was a bit disruptive, that wasn't it? So here there's a new link for the VS Code because it rebooted, so it's it's reset.
All right, I'm in.
Okay, right. So should we start the next turn? This time it's going to be Kate navigating and Blaise driving.
Okay.
And Matt shutting upping.
Okay, just see if I am requesting to join.
Oh, sorry, Kate. I didn't realise you were in.
There we go.
Accept read write. There we go.
So is it me navigating?
Yeah. So what would you like me to type?
What would I like you to type? I would like for you to, given a user Greg is part of the committers team, and the create date of their last commit was 366 days ago, when the bot runs, then Greg should be in the alumni. I would just say moved to the alumni team. Wouldn't that be better, Matt? And Greg should be removed from the committers team. So I would just change that English. I don't know if that is.
I think the reason it was written that way is because it's easy to test. We can just test for the presence of one team and the apps,
Okay.
You could express it. Greg should have been moved to and Greg should have been removed from. You could definitely express it like that. But what you're going to be doing in the concrete implementation of this as a test is you're just going to be checking the state to see whether Greg is in the alumni team or not, and whether Greg is in the committers team or not. But we could express it like that.
So should we call the scenarios that?
So that was going to be one thing I was going to point out in a minute. Is we should name the scenario.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And a useful way to think about naming scenarios, I've got cucumber hat on again, is you think about if there was an episode of Friends about this scenario, what would they call it? So you know the way Friends is always called the one where Phoebe forgot her guitar or something. So you imagine instead of saying scenario, it says the one where, and then what is this? This is just the one where. Status but what's special about this scenario?
Contributors.
What's special is that he's expired.
The first one I'm writing, that's special.
Yes, it's an old. So Greg has been inactive for a year. Is that right?
Yeah. So that's what I would say. Yeah, this is the one where Greg has been inactive for over a year.
Okay, would it make sense to have the next scenario? Because I'm thinking with my tester ad, immediately the opposite of that would be John has been active within the past year. No, John, somebody else. It can't be the same guy.
Aslak. He's prolific.
Do you agree, Matt?
100%. And what I was going to observe was that it's interesting that thought happened when we zoomed out to the level of what is this scenario about overall. Because when we were down in the weeds of the given when then, we couldn't see it. But when we zoomed out, we started to look across the landscape and see other examples. So it's interesting to observe that, isn't it? And that's how this is designed to work as a technique, is like name the scenario. It's important to think about the name of the scenario because that will help you think about, well, what other scenarios could there be?
So my usual approach to testing is to draw a mind map, and then the scenarios would be the mind map, and then I would go into the detail.
Well, if you think about it, this example map that we made together is not far off a mind map, really. It kind of was a mind map. It's just it's got this colouring of like what type of thing have we got in the mind map. Right.
Okay.
But we weren't thorough when we did it. And we didn't write down.
The user as luck is part of the committer's team. And the create date of the last commit, you can just copy that actually. The create date of the last commit was 1 day ago. Because I guess this thing will only run daily or weekly, or...
It only really needs to run daily, doesn't it? Because we haven't got the fidelity of,
not even daily,
minutes.
Probably like weekly.
Yeah.
When the bot runs on the repo, then he should be in the committers team and not in the alumni team. So it's just literally like swapping those two around. How's that for timing? Very good, Blaise.
Yes. Oh, right. I see.
You're missing your when step.
Oh, when? Sorry.
But shouldn't we turn around and
yes, I'll
then you can fix it, Matt?
Sure. I'm ready when you are. Should we start the turn?
Yep, stop.
Okay. So what do I need to do? I need to tidy up these last two steps to say then Aslak should not be in the alumni team, and Aslak should be in the committers
No.
team.
And
Then
committers-
Aslak should be in the committees team, and well,
You want it the
doesn't
other way
matter.
around, Kate. You want the
Doesn't
positive
matter.
one. And we could add a bit of nuance and say still be in the committers team, and so on.
Okay. Oh, committers
'Cause
is
that's-
misspelled.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Is it 2 T's?
Two T's, yeah.
I'm terrible at double letters.
Commiters. The first one is spelled correctly.
No, there we
Well
go.
spotted, Blaise.
Okay,
I
is that
didn't
all
even
good?
notice.
Yeah.
Aslak has been active within the past year. Okay, anything else you want me to type right now? What's next? I noticed we still don't have a name for our feature.
Oh, that's right.
Normally, you just name it the same as the file. So,
That's fine. Move inactive features, yeah. Inactive users, yeah. Good.
so yeah, what do we want to do next? I mean, our goal is to process these cards into scenarios. So, which ones have we done?
Well, we haven't. We've done the first blue one, and the second blue one, but we haven't done the last one. Inactive contributors have had all custom permissions, so we probably have to have a scenario that says something like, whatever, Aslak loses or Greg loses custom permissions.
Right. So we need a scenario where a user, maybe we create a third persona who has a custom access to the repo.
Isn't this ants?
You mean we could extend these existing scenarios, Kate, to include this?
I would, but I'm new, so I could be wrong.
So you could. I mean, we could just have one massive scenario that creates Greg and Aslak and all these other personas and checks everything, but they can get quite
What does
hairy
the
when you do
cucumber
that.
people say is the
The
best
cucumber people
practice?
says small examples that test one thing at a time, because you think about them as all like little warning lights on the dashboard of the system. When one of them blinks, it's helpful if it's quite specific about what's wrong. If it's just like a big massive warning light like something's fucked but I don't know, something's broken but I don't know what it is, it's, you know, it's a lot harder. You've got to parse a big long scenario to work out what's wrong with it. So this is kind of like the contrast with manual testing, right, where it's actually quite helpful to roll up a lot of stuff in one test because it's quite time consuming to set up the data and stuff like that, whereas with an automated test, because all of that's happening, the machine's doing it, you can afford to make the tests a bit more fine-grained. Sorry, I'm interrupting the mob time with my rambling.
Nope.
So we could add another scenario
asked.
for, this is the one where
Whatever, Matt has custom permissions.
cool. Okay, so what's the given here? Or maybe what's the then?
Oh,
We could start with
then
that.
the custom permissions get removed. Or should we just raise like an exception, like elevate it to like where somebody reviews it manually, or?
I think it's
No,
fine if we
because
expect
it's
this to
moving
get
active
removed.
users.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's pick a repo that I had, or we could say on the repo. We've said it earlier. Just need to turn my heater on. It's getting cold in here.
Right, I see. Because in the first case, we're basically only looking at whether or not they're a member of a team. But in this case, we're looking at whether there's any additional privilege
Well, their permissions.
or
Yes.
permissions. Yeah.
Yeah, because remember, there's a way that you can just add someone, even if they're not in a team, you can add them to a repo.
Yes.
So I guess we can say when the bot runs on the repo. Is that okay?
Yes. Nice.
And we need some sort of a given to set this up. So this would
given
be, we're now swapping turns.
Oh, it's following.
No,
You're
you're just breaking the
you're
rules.
you're retired, Blaise. Now you can take a break. And Kate, you're typing. You ready?
I am. Oh, are we shifting gears?
It's
Yep.
I'm going
Navigator
to get the right from vocabulary because I'm not sure what it is. Okay, so
It's
what do I
okay.
type?
I'm navigating, so it's okay. You're in safe hands.
Good.
So we need a given that says, given a user Matt has write access. I would say WR, exactly, write access to the Cucumber.js repo. And what was it say? The create date of their last commit was 366 days ago. You could copy it from line 11 if you wanted. When the bot runs on the repo, then Matt should not have any custom permissions on the repo. Or you could change it to say maybe no longer instead of not, because that kind of reads a bit better, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And we could make it a bit easier for ourselves by saying on the Cucumber.js repo in the then step as well, because then we don't have to remember which repo we're talking about.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Sweet. So one thing I wanted to do while I was navigator is there's another Gherkin keyword that we haven't used yet, which is called rule. So the ones on like lines 9 and 16 are part of one rule, right? Which is about
Group membership.
Yeah. So, well, it's about kind of about 12 months, isn't it? Or is it about?
Yes.
So I guess it's about team. I don't know. There's kind of two rules getting tested here, isn't there? But the inactive after 12 months is like a kind of it's going across everything, isn't it? Because we're also doing it on custom permissions. So this rule here is about remove access to to all teams, or move inactive users into alumni team.
Right.
And
Okay.
then the second rule is about, which would be down wrapping around the one on line 24.
Okay.
So because you're only allowed, because the rules like contain the scenario, so you'd want to put a rule in front of like on line 23.
Oops.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
So move that
I couldn't help myself.
Move that
Shouldn't
line
have.
9 down to line 23, Kate, and then we're good. Do you follow me?
Nice. This is super cool.
Yeah. So we could maybe express it a little bit more verbosely and say like remove any custom permissions or custom repo permissions from inactive users. So, yeah, great. This looks really good. One thing I've realised is that we mentioned at the top, we said we have two teams, committers and alumni, and the goal is to move inactive contributors from the committers team into alumni. But actually, we have multiple teams because we've got an example here. Am I sharing my screen with you two?
Yeah.
I am. This one, which talks about Julian is an admin on Cucumber.js repo through membership of the Cucumber.js team. So we need to remove his access to the Cucumber.js team as well. So we've done this one about Greg being a member of the committers team.
Okay.
But we need to also have another team as well. So I think we should probably add a third scenario in this, under this rule here, under rule 9. So it could be a scenario about Julian Julian is an admin on the Cucumber.js repo. And it's actually, to be pedantic, it's Julien. He is French, so it's spelled with an E, not an A. Thanks.
Like that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and my time's up, 6 seconds to go, and then I'm retiring.
Okay, so I'll drive.
So the scenarios, there's a given. User Julien is an admin on the Cucumber.js repo. And the create date of their last commit was 366 days ago, so you can just copy that. Line number 13 and 14 when the bot runs. Then Julien should
Oh, I forgot to start the timer.
not have admin rights. What should he have? Because I don't like these negatives.
So the admin thing, I should have expressed that better when it was my turn. It really, what it is that we have the teams are nested in Cucumber. So
yes,
if you're in the Cucumber JS team, you're also a member of the committers team, but you get additional rights by being a member of the Cucumber JS team. So it's kind of irrelevant, that mapping, I think. We just want to know that he's in the Cucumber JS team. So it's not just what we want to be proving here is that we don't just remove people from the committers team. We basically remove them from any team that isn't the alumni team.
So he should only be an alumni.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, that is a really good then step, Blaise, which we could reword all of them to say, Greg should only be in the alumni team. Julian should only be in the alumni team. Yeah.
Should there be a match? Should there be and after the when the bot runs? So currently we've got given a user Julien is in an admin on the Cucumber.js repo, and his last commit was more than 365 days ago. When the bot runs, then Julien should be in the alumni team. Is that all?
Yeah, I think I would just
and
check.
Should we check that he is not in the committers team?
Well, is that not implicit in the step that says then he should be only in the alumni team? We have to decide that ourselves whether we think that's well enough documented.
We explicitly said committers and alumni team because you are doing a positive check. Okay, only in the alumni team.
Yeah,
okay?
I mean, but maybe it's not clear enough. Maybe it's better to have 2 steps that stamp it out really clearly like we had before.
What is the best practice?
There isn't a best practice. The best practice is to listen to your readership and ask them what they would prefer. It really depends on how we as a group want to express this behaviour, right? We could write whatever we like.
Would this make sense to somebody new that...
Exactly. But we should be consistent. That is a good practice. Yes. So we should be consistent. We should do it the same way in all the scenarios. If we mean the same thing, we should say it the same way. So I think I'm kind of inclined to, even though I'm not even supposed to be navigating or driving, so I'm just going to shut up.
I would like to add one last scenario, but you can give input.
But can we before we add another scenario though, can we try and resolve this question about how we should express this then step that says that a user is only in the or these assertions about what teams a user ends up in after the scenario is run, because I'd like us to, because what we've got on line 29 is exactly the same as what's on lines 15 and 16. We've just said it differently. So we should decide which way we like to say it, and then we should do it the same way.
Well, pretty much you shouldn't be an admin on the Cucumber.js repo anymore.
But actually, I think that line 26 is, because the way I've sort of said it a bit loosely, but what we really mean is that Julian is a member of the Cucumber.js admin team.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right. So.
All right.
Well, is Julian is a member, not Julian is an admin of the team. Yeah. And we should do that in the given step as well.
Okay.
But I'm taking over Kate's navigation. Sorry, Kate.
I'm happy. Then Julian should be the only one in the alumni team. Given a user, Julian is a member of the Cucumber.js admin team and their create date. They should no longer be, I would definitely add it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so after the then, and they should not be a member in the Cucumber admin team anymore. What do you think, Matt?
I agree. I think it's better to be explicit. And you know, it's also easier to automate, and there's something nice about the simplicity, because if you imagine you've got to implement the check for only in, you've got to test, are they in that team and are they not in any other teams? And then that's quite complicated to write that assertion code. You might make a mistake. And then you've got a test that's actually telling you everything's fine when it's not. So the simpler you can make these statements, the simpler the code underneath is going to be, the more you can trust them.
Yes.
So I might get rid of the word only on line 29, Blaise, having got excited about it initially, I think. So
isn't it your turn now to drive?
Yeah, so I should really shut up.
Oh no, well that was so was there any other spot? Oh, I guess take out only in line 38. And then maybe add an and match should not be in the Cucumber.js.
What language are you typing?
Well, so what is it? So Matt is a member of the Cucumber.js repo.
Yeah, so basically,
I don't remember us changing this. This is about custom permissions, though, so it's not about being a member of. It's
that's
about
right.
having
That was me. Sorry.
right access.
It's copy pasta on my part. Sorry about that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So I think what we had before was
given user has write access to the Cucumber. Yeah.
So what we want to say is any custom permissions.
Yeah.
On the Cucumber.
So we could probably take out the then statement. Seems to be a little orthogonal.
Well, yeah, but actually,
I would leave it.
We might forget to do that, and we still want to make them an alumni, right?
Yeah. That's right.
So these are both valid outcomes of this scenario.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay.
So you're navigating, Blaise.
I'm navigating, right. So then, so that scenario looks complete. Given any custom, and I guess the rule, is there a permutation scenario underneath that rule? Kate, can you think of one? No.
I was thinking that, what did I think before? I wanted to add another test about the Cucumber.js admin, but I can't remember now.
This one.
Oh, that's right. We want to make sure that there should always be at least one member in the Cucumber JS admin. If
Good
we
one.
accidentally remove all of the admins, we might have a problem, right?
Yeah, probably.
No, we don't, because there's repository owners who can always step in
Oh,
and
I
fix
see.
things.
Got
We
it.
don't
Okay,
need to worry
okay,
about
Okay.
that. That's complicating
okay,
things more than we need to.
okay.
I'm thinking about a different, I don't know if it would be useful or not, but Matt has custom permissions. But what if what's the other permutation for custom permissions?
It's just not having any custom permissions, which is sort of the default.
Mm.
Not really,
So,
yeah.
Greg doesn't have any custom permissions here in this one, say.
And move inactive users. Do we want to check anything of active users?
Well, we have one here about an active
Yeah.
user. This that sort of just said everything gets left alone. By the way, this is
Do
a
we
bit
want to
weird.
go
We say
back to
when
the
the bot runs on the
stickies?
repo and ASLAC should be on the committers team then. So this is a bit wrong, isn't it? We should change that to be like this.
So we have
Oh, I
done
see.
the first one.
The
We have done the
first,
second one, the blue
these,
sticky note.
the rules, yeah.
We have done the third one. Inactive user has custom access to a specific repo.
We
Is
did
that good?
Yeah, we did that one.
What
Yeah.
we could do is we could move this rule to be around like this scenario, and then we could have this rule here. This is just expressing the rule that users become inactive after a year. We could do
That's
it like
exactly how I wanted to do it. Yes.
Wow.
So we introduced
That was
the
my
basic.
first thinking.
We introduced the basic rule, then we say move inactive users into alumni team from any team, any other team, and then finally remove any custom permissions from inactive users. So this is kind of like the most edge casey one. There's quite a nice narrative now, isn't it?
It
You
is.
start out
It
with the
looks
obvious
beautiful.
stuff, and then yeah.
Well done, guys.
Yeah.
All of this in an hour. Less, actually.
It's really
And
fantastic.
so
Half an hour.
the thing that's cool about this, like if we step back from what we've been doing for a minute, because we're almost at time, right? We spent an hour on this, and we now, the three of us, have got a pretty good shared understanding of what the scope of the work is now. If we were going to go off and write the code, we might not know how to write the code yet, but we know what we need to make the code do in order for it to be good enough. And we could zoom out and read this. But the other thing that's great about this is you can take this and you can show this to somebody else who's a stakeholder in the problem, and they can read this and go, yep, have you thought about this? What about this? This is a really good way to get feedback now about whether the three of us are like in cahoots here. We've gone, oh yeah, this is really good. I like this. We're happy with this. But maybe we missed something because maybe we've descended into groupthink, and we can use the output of the work we've just done to go and get some feedback from other people, because it's quite easy for them to read this and comment on it, right? And it's nice to aim for this kind of level of quality of documentation when you're writing these feature files. Like, there's no reason why they can't be this nice. And there are some trade-offs that we've been stepping on a little bit about what's going to be easy to test. But it's generally possible to find a balance point between what's easy to test and what works as good documentation. That means you have got stuff that can work as good documentation. I'm a little bit. I'd just like to change this bit here where it says we have two teams, because it's not actually true, is it?
Right, we've got more than two. Yeah. Actually, we just perhaps want to say that some teams.
Committers teams, contributor teams.
Yeah.
Well, not committers, because that's one of the teams, but.
Well,
we
I
have
guess
to
two main teams.
Right.
You could be explicit to say related to
Actually, yeah, the key thing is that we have one team called alumni, which has no privileges.
you have two main teams to determine whether a member is active or not.
Yeah, it has no special permissions, and it's used to whatever
Recognize, appreciate.
Yeah, past contributors.
Right, and so this is where we write the why, right? For security reasons,
oh, nice.
we want to retire inactive contributors who haven't been active for recently into the alumni group.
Right.
I just want to find out, all the commits has to go through a review process, right? It's not like...
No.
Yeah, okay, if you're in the committers team, so the way it works in Cucumber is, if you have a pull request accepted on any of the main repos, you are automatically added to the committers team. And if you're in the committers team, you can push to the main branch on any of the main repos. So you could start merging other people's pull requests. And that's the idea, is to get the friction out of the way of people becoming contributors. And generally that works fine. It's just that we have this problem that we're gradually accruing more and more people in that group. And the longer that goes on, the more chance there is that one of them will get their account compromised.
Right, and that's really the risk.
And then push something dodgy to master. So it's just to be on the very safe side. Like, we have two-factor authentication on the organization, so you can only become a member of the organization anyway if you've got two-factor authentication on your account. So it's quite unlikely that they would get their account compromised, but it could happen. So it's just to be on the safe side.
Right.
Well, to me, it would make sense to know how many people are actually contributing, because if you've got thousands of people, but only 20 of them are contributing, it's a false stat. It doesn't really mean a lot to say, look, we've got 1,000 people in our committers team, but actually it's only 20 people.
Sure. Yeah. It'd be really useful to know how many. I've been running a little thing. I'll show you quickly. I run the script every day, so this shows 44 people contributed in the last 3 months, which is
what happened in the middle of 2018.
Don't know. Fascinating. Yeah, fascinating. It'd be interesting to try and do some archaeology and figure out what was happening at that time that brought so many contributors in, because that is a big spike, isn't it?
But is this a count of mergers or of committers, people?
It's people who were making commits. This is the number of people, of different people who made commits in a rolling 90-day period at that time.
Why is it up and down the whole time?
Well, because people come and go, and it's a noisy thing, I guess. What isn't so noisy is this, which is the gradual accumulation of contributors. So we're almost at 1,500 different people have made contributions. It's amazing, isn't it? This is the rate that they arrive at.
Pretty impressive. Yes.
The thing that's interesting to me is about, and if you can take the noise out of it. So this is the second time.
What is the yellow line versus the green line?
So the green line is new contributors, first time contributors. So all of this bar above here, this area between the yellow and the green, is the people who are making their first contribution. And really my goal is to grow this area under the yellow curve, because this is the people who are coming back and making a second or a third contribution. So you can see that over the years, You know, we've gradually grown, but we're kind of flattening off maybe these past few years.
Yeah.
And that's really the goal here, is to kind of keep this line marching upwards, so that we're as the code base grows and the product grows, and we take on, you know, new language versions. We've got a version in Go now, and there's a new one in Rust coming.
Oh, wow.
That we grow the team of the community of people that are helping out with it. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Well, so we have some idea, right? But I mean, this is just 90 days, 44 people, 90 days. So, and right now, I think that alumni team has about, because we didn't have the automatic thing on until probably 3 years ago or something. So a lot of these people never got invited in. They made contributions and then went away again, but they never got made into the committers team. So there's about 300 people in the committers team right now. Not 1,300 like there really should be. Yeah, that would be a nice thing to do. Well, it would be nice to go back and find all of these 1,000 people that haven't been added to the committers team and add them to the alumni team, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be.
That would be a sweet thing to do. Maybe we can put that on our backlog.
So should we do a quick retrospective?
Yeah, that's a great idea, Kate. Shall I make a commit with this change?
Yes, please. Yes, I think that's good.
Yes, we can't let all our hard work go to waste.
Right. Nice.
I think I don't have it in here. Hulk Hogan. What's he doing in there? Yeah. This is useless. This thing never works when I want it to.
There's an
Is that right?
N at the end.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Kate, you'll have to remind me your email address. Kate@Funificent or something?
No, let me type it for you.
Oh yeah, you can.
Well, I can
you can't
type
type.
it.
You can't type in here in the terminal window. I can make it read right if we fiddle about, but it might be easier for you to just tell me what it is.
It's in the Slack chat.
Oh, sweet.
Funficient. Is that how you say it?
Yes, it's like putting the fun back into efficiency.
I like it. Okay, let's git push. I'll just update that package JSON as well. Just get it out of the way. Right, so I can do retro new, retro add. I'll save it there, and then we can all type in it here. Let's get out of Vim. Okay, so who's here? Kate, Blaise, Matt. What happened?
We talked about example mapping, and then we talked about we set up the Probat, and then we wrote some tests.
Oh, we might want to mention there that we talked about example mapping and acceptance criteria, the pitfalls of acceptance criteria.
Yes. Okay. So who wants to go first with their puzzles or happy thoughts or... Okay, my friend calls these the oohs and ahs and
Yeah,
ums.
yeah. Oh, oh well. So for me, the ooh and the ah was definitely the acceptance criteria.
I saw you
Because
you wrote something in Slack about that. Yeah.
yeah,
Tell me,
yeah.
Blaise.
So
What?
I think for me, it's definitely that. In fact, feel free to copy that little quote of yours.
You're famous now.
Where is it?
Because that really stood out to me is the
Mere contributors channel.
Acceptance
oh yeah.
criteria are dangerous because they can be detailed.
Actually, it's not investigative inquiry. It is called appreciative inquiry,
Oh, thank
which
you.
is appreciating the strength. It's basically a strength-based approach to positive organizational change. So you look at what's working and strengthen that rather than what's wrong and try and fix it.
That's brilliant.
It is magic. It's really magic.
Comes from therapy, doesn't it? I remember somebody
It's
doing a talk about it years and years ago.
yeah.
It's like a psychotherapy technique or a
Oh,
family
interesting.
therapy
Wow.
thing or something.
I don't know, maybe. But this is yes, organizational change, and it is based on the dialogic, which is basically the old one is you unfreeze, change, and then freeze. This is you can have whole system change with short dialogues and at the same time. So it's a faster way to have bigger change based on positive. It's like you're fueling people to move towards change.
Very cool.
But you start with a positive, the end in goal, and then as soon as you can describe your goal, you naturally start moving towards it. Even if you don't take any steps, just talking about it will already move you to action to move towards it.
Yeah.
So do you also have more insights for positive? So I really like the continuity from last week. It feels to me a little bit more productive to not just do a little bit here and a little bit there, but to have a little bit more big picture. Maybe that's just me. And I really like the mobbing with the following the rules and giving everybody, it kept me much more engaged because you've constantly, and to me, the biggest insight with the mobbing was that you really have to listen carefully.
Because it's going to be your turn in a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
when you are the driver, you have to listen. And I think that's probably the skill that is most lacking in most teams. People don't listen because they think they're clever, and they are, but I mean, you can always listen. So that was really great.
Yeah. I have actually often reflected that because some mobs need, or especially when they're getting coached, have a facilitator, like an explicit facilitator. But I think if you dissolve that and you just mobbing is the way you work generally,
Yes.
The driver really is the facilitator, because the driver is like, what do you want me to type? They have to facilitate the conversation that's happening around them to make sense in order for them to be able to move the code forward and type something. So that's the role really of the driver, I think, is to
I thought the
listen.
navigator is the person that needs to facilitate the conversation. The driver is plainly a dumb terminal typing what goes in, and then you get real-time feedback to see that, but actually you're not explaining the issue pretty well, or that's how I saw it.
Yeah, ideally, I think the navigator would be the facilitator, and then the driver doesn't have to think too much. But I think that as a fallback, sometimes the navigator is driving they've got their route that they want to follow, and actually then somebody else in the room is like, no, I don't think that's quite right, or whatever, and ultimately it's up to the driver to figure it out. That's my take, but I think it probably depends on the dynamic of the group, doesn't it? Yeah, but yeah, it works really well, didn't it? Using the timer. Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
Well,
What was good?
that was good for me, was using the timer. I really just like the everyone got to go.
Yes.
It felt like equal, you know, in
Yes.
terms of our contribution. We were all contributing something. I liked the scenarios that we ended up with. I thought they looked great. Yeah, and I like the questions that you two are asking. You're asking really good, relevant questions, and we're covering. You know, I'm getting to say stuff that is lots of people would be wondering about. I think you're asking great questions. Yeah. So yeah, any other thoughts to share? I'm hungry. I
On
want to go and have
the
my breakfast.
could be better side, the one thing that I kept looking and I couldn't see it was the timer is only on your screen. I know there are timers that is on all the screens. I want one of those because I don't hear the sound. Because
Right, we could all
few
have that
times
URL actually on our machines, so it does
Oh,
work like that. This one, if you
so
open it
it's
up,
with WebSockets or something.
yeah, it's, I don't know, some fancy pants technology.
Because I can
Yeah,
also only see the two names, so it's
do you want to put the URL for Mob Timer in there?
I think I just put it in the new contributors channel.
Oh, and I meant in the retrospective.
Oh right, yeah.
but I really like the timer. It's really cool and it's really effective and it's very easy. We didn't spend a lot of time to have to set it up or anything, and I think that's the most important. Well, synchronously, locally to me, you not just on my PC, that we all see the same thing at the same time.
That is how it works. Yeah, it's just a matter of
Okay.
going to the same URL. Yeah.
And that's my could be better one for today.
Well, I just want to appreciate the two of you for showing up, because it's really good to have this, you know, continuity from last week. Have it moving on. We're building a thing that's going to be useful to Cucumber, but probably also to other projects. So yeah, this is really cool. Thanks for showing up. Any actions? Anyone want to take any actions? I mean, we can share the mob timer URL properly next time.
Are we accruing some of these in like a little like a new contributors guide or a or mob session guide?
Good point. I can do that.
Yeah.
Maybe just have like a little
Getting started kit.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
a good idea. And the other thing that's working well, actually, that I should probably add up here is the VS Code live share.
Yes,
Like
and having your
even when
credentials.
even when it got interrupted by me having to reboot my VS Code, it was only a few seconds before you two were back in again. It was pretty straightforward, and it's really nice to just have that fluid rotation without us having to make a git commit or swap screen shares or anything. It's just really nice and fluid, isn't it?
It's really cool.
Oh, the actions.
So Blaise, were you thinking about like having all the tools and everything for?
Yeah, like a cheat sheet for mob timers, for mob sessions. So, like for example, a little checklist, like before you begin, you want to have like your logins for GitHub and your SSH keys, and then when you start, you might want to like everyone like do like a round of introductions at the beginning, and then discuss the scope, and then also like have like a decision of like, okay, of when to start the Twitch.
That's a good idea. And even this checklist could also be about me. I think it was good that I wrote a message yesterday to say what we
That
were
was
going to do
great.
today.
Yes.
Because I quite often I realise that I haven't done that on Thursday night, and then I'm like, well, it's too late now because it's Thursday night in PST time zone. Everyone's going to be asleep. So I don't do it. But if I had a checklist, that's a helpful. That would be a good idea. Yeah, we should. Yeah.
I can commit to compiling a first draft, and then I will post it for you guys to
Amazing.
edit and
Amazing.
Do you want to do it in a
improve.
Google Doc maybe or something, Kate? And then it's easy to
I
easy to
can,
hack
or I
around
can
with.
do it on GitHub.
It's probably easier to change it if it's just in a Google Doc, I would suggest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe once we've decided what we want to say, then we can do a commit.
Yeah, because it gets a bit like it's less malleable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thanks, Kate.
Okay, just awesome. Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, I think that's good actions. I mean, are we going to carry on with this? Are you two up for carrying on with this next week?
Yeah,
next
I
week,
think so.
I will do a bit of scouting. So I'll just run ahead and have a look at how we'll do that. I won't do any work in this repo, but I was thinking, because we've got this new Cucumber.js examples repo, I'm going to probably add a Probot example in there just to like, because the way it generates code there with Jest.
Sure.
These are Jest tests in here now.
Yeah.
I'm just going to port this to a Cucumber scenario, and then I'm going to add that in our examples repo, so we've got something to refer to for how we do all this stuff.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I have done a Probot app before at a Smart Bear hackathon a few months ago, so I kind of have a rough idea how to do it, and I think we did use Cucumber for testing it. So
okay.
It's certainly possible.
Anything's possible. It's just how hard is it?
Right, well, I better go. I better
Yep.
go because I've got a child that needs some attention. He's homeschooled on Fridays. Where's my OBS window? As usual, it's beach balling. Oh, no, it's not. Okay, right. Bye, streamers.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Happy weekend.